After weeks of anticipation, SpaceX has finally announced a date for the launch of the world's most powerful rocket, Starship, and it's closer than we think. Let's see. SpaceX is poised to launch another prototype vehicle in August 2024, even though the last launch was just last month. According to the results from their last launch, which we witnessed on Thursday, June 6th, along the shores of South Texas, it was reported that the launch was a massive success which met the major goals of the test and achieved what this prototype integrated flight test had in mind. During Integrated Flight Test 4, Starship 4 successfully separated from its booster. The Super Heavy booster then made a spectacular vertical landing in the Gulf of Mexico and then splashed down in the Indian Ocean. Flight 4 also recorded a successful splashdown of S-29 after re-entering Earth's atmosphere, even though the ship sustained significant damage. But despite the damage, this was still a major breakthrough for SpaceX and demonstrated Starship's ability to successfully separate from its booster and survive atmospheric re-entry. Although the Super Heavy booster and S-29 were not recovered during this flight test, SpaceX commentators argued that the data obtained from this flight test was of utmost importance. They believe that this data will help in the development of further flight tests, of which Flight 5 is a major part. It's worth noting that SpaceX never planned to recover the Starship or Super Heavy booster during this mission. Instead, the primary goal was to test Starship's ability to make a successful re-entry into Earth's atmosphere and achieve a successful vertical landing. Fortunately, Starship, which is considered the world's most powerful rocket, successfully accomplished SpaceX's long-awaited objective in this test, building upon its progress from the previous flight test. However, it is rather unusual that SpaceX is conducting another integrated flight test, Flight 5, within such a short period. The question then is, why so soon? Well, according to SpaceX, due to the successful performance of Flight 4 on June 6, 2024, there have been fewer issues to analyze ahead of the next launch. This is because there was no need for a mishap investigation by the Federal Aviation Administration. Consequently, by June 12th, this was further confirmed, allowing SpaceX to proceed more quickly with preparations for their next launch. The FAA had previously listed the 3 specific outcomes that would trigger a mishap investigation. One of these outcomes would be if the Raptor engines on the Starship failed to relight for re-entry and landing. However, after completing an orbital trajectory flight, S-29 successfully re-entered the atmosphere and performed a vertical landing. The second scenario pointed out by the FAA is if the flaps cannot properly control the spacecraft. Again, SpaceX seems to have made progress in this area. And the third scenario involves the S-29 burning up during re-entry, which was a critical part of the flight test. Even though S-29 sustained significant damage, it still completed the vertical powered entry to Earth, demonstrating a successful achievement of these criteria. Because of this, there was no need for a mishap investigation, and this significantly contributed to the decision to move forward with the early launch of the next Starship. By July 19th, the communication license from the Federal Communications Commission for Flight 5 had been applied for, with the start date set. As a result, Flight 5 is now in the implementation phase, and Musk has also promised changes for this new Starship. However, although SpaceX has announced a new launch date of August 3, 2024, it's worth noting that there might be a likely shift. Any potential delay is unlikely to be due to inadequate preparation, as SpaceX has been ready for the Flight 5 launch since before May. SpaceX's major goal with Flight 5 is to guide the giant booster through a controlled descent and achieve a precise landing on the Starbase launch mount, an effort that will be greatly aided by the chopstick arm. This recovery system, which SpaceX had been developing in secret, was made public at the end of Flight Test 4. It was further confirmed when Musk announced on X that SpaceX plans to catch the Super Heavy booster with this massive chopstick arm. And with the launch of Flight 5, they are already making significant plans to achieve this. Once the booster recovery is successfully achieved, it will greatly benefit the Starship program by allowing the booster to be inspected, refurbished, and relaunched quickly. This explains why recovering the Super Heavy booster is one of the main goals of Flight 5. Besides the Super Heavy booster, the Flight 5 prototype, Ship 30, will also be recovered after the flight. As is already underway, vehicle testing is ongoing for the prototype that will undergo Flight 5. Another major concern is that SpaceX is focused on reducing the damage to the ship during re-entry after it completes an orbital flight. The aim is to minimize the destruction caused by the intense supersonic speeds. To address these concerns, SpaceX has made some minor adjustments to the prototype vehicle for Flight 5. These changes are aimed at improving performance and minimizing damage during the mission. With the rapid launch of the Flight 5, the prototype vehicle will undergo design revisions and testing. Speaking of upgrades, S-30 is also undergoing significant design revisions, some of which includes a new vent on the liquid methane tank and an additional vent with a new valve design on the liquid oxygen tank. These changes come after the usual static fire testing was completed as early as May, while preparations for Flight 5 were already underway. There will also be 2 small radio antennas, which have been redesigned and relocated near the payload, unlike before when they were situated on the nose cone of the ship. In a clever design move, SpaceX has also hidden an additional antenna under the nose cone of the ship, enhancing communication redundancy without compromising the vehicle's streamlined shape. While these design changes were being implemented, SpaceX didn't slow down on testings. On July 15th, SpaceX performed a static fire test, igniting their Super Heavy booster B-12 in preparation for the Starship's upcoming integrated flight test. It was reported to have been moved to the test site by July 9th, and with the results it is proving to be very effective. In a major milestone for the Super Heavy booster B-12, they've just performed the first-ever spin prime test. Looking ahead to Flight 5, SpaceX is addressing one of the key issues from the previous test. According to Musk, the heat shield on Flight 5 will be twice as strong as the one used in Flight 4, which was a major problem in the previous test. As we approach the 3rd of August, SpaceX stands on the brink of another potential breakthrough. With plans to recover the booster using the new chopstick arm and test an improved heat shield, this launch could mark a significant leap for SpaceX and the space industry as a whole. This significant upgrade addresses a major problem from the previous test and could be a game-changer for Starship's re-entry capabilities, bringing SpaceX one step closer to reliable, reusable spacecraft. If successful, Flight 5 might not just be another test flight. It could be a giant step towards SpaceX's dream of making the colonization of Mars a reality. Will this be the flight that cements SpaceX's vision of interplanetary travel? Only time will tell.